Okay, so what we're going to do today is finish up chapter 15, and we're going to watch a few of your videos, and then today's just Tuesday, right? Thursday, we're going to, yeah, I'm struggling that bad that I don't know whether it's Tuesday or Thursday. We will do chapter 16 on Thursday, and my hope is that we can do chapter 16, finish watching your videos, and then we can X-nay on coming in here after that, because we'll have the stuff covered. You'll have the tests at the end of the class today. I'll hand them out to you, and y'all can concentrate on completing that. It's not going to be all that terrible. It's kind of long. It's going to be 150 points. That is by design. It is in large part to help you, because a lot of the questions are going to be a little bit familiar from previous exams, these difficult tests that we've been taking. So some of them are going to be, if you kept your last test, you should do pretty well if you were here to hear what the answers are or whatever. Now there is some new material that you'll still have to dig for from these last few chapters, but we'll give that out today. I hope to finish our material by Thursday. If not, we'll come in next Tuesday and we'll be done by then for sure. Okay, does that sound good? I've done that with several of my classes. I'm trying to let people kind of get done where they can take one stressor off of their plate by design, because I know this is a crazy semester. So we will, let me share the screen here, and we'll go back in and finish this chapter 15 from where we were. I guess I should turn on the screen too while I'm at it. Somebody want to flip the switch right where this screen will show, Miguel? Can you get this front light off? Perfecto, thank you. Okay, so this chapter 15, managing service quality in healthcare. That's the entire, that's saying we want to put out a valuable, consistent product to our consumers. As the manager, as the leader, it's our responsibility to make sure that what we're putting out is what they're paying for, is what they are showing up to get, is what is expected by the facility where we work. So there was this Deming cycle. I wanted to read it Deming, but it only has one E, so I'm going to call it Deming. And it was from a guy named Edward W. Edwards Deming. It's an approach that has to do with you're checking for continuous quality improvement. It's a moving, we talked about our goals being a moving target. You're always striving to improve what we are offering. And this cycle plays into how that works. In the book, it's on page 244, there's a little figure that shows it in like just figure form. But there's different stages in it. The plan stage is where you make a proposal to implement a change to what you're doing, when you're looking to make an improvement to what you're offering. Then, this improvement, that's not something that you arrived at by just guessing. This is like a hypothesis that you think will help you, that you have based on data, that you've based on reading that you've done, things that other places are doing, things like that. And you think that the change is going to result in correcting a problem with the quality that you're doing, whatever is lacking in what's being provided. And just because your department, what you're offering may have a lack of quality at times doesn't mean that you're a failure or that your people are a failure. That's just part of life, and that's part of learning as we go. So this is a normal situation. Once you have planned to do this change, you need to move to the design. I mean, you move to implement. You've planned it, you've designed it. Now it's time to implement your change. What happens there? That's your do stage. That's go time. You're going to implement the proposed change while holding constant all the other aspects of the system or process. So everything else is staying the same, and you are making a specific change, and you're looking to see whether that change equates better outcomes. So then you're going to evaluate it or check it. You know, notice how everything kind of relates and goes around the API format almost. You can see the same thing here, basically. I mean, portions of it at least. Once you have implemented it, and you're holding everything, then you can check. You can see what the results were of the change. Did the quality improve? If it did, if it improved quality, then it needs to be turned into standard operating procedure. If it did not, then it's abandoned, as you see on the bottom of the slide here. Once you make a plan, you see whether, and it's based on something that you have read, that you have, thought about, talked to other people about. You have something that it's based on. It's not just a random, hey, let's try this. You don't just throw something up in the air. You plan. It's a lot of work for something that you don't do some actual thinking about first. Implement it, evaluate to see whether or not it did make your product better in the long term. And then at that point, you either standardize it, which is implement it long term. This is how we're going to do this now. Or you abandon that and say, well, we tried. Let's try something else. Let's go back to what we were doing for now. Or let's try this now. If something doesn't show results, you don't want to, clearly, you're not going to stick with that plan. That's common sense as far as that statement. So quality assurance, I've heard more about this than I would have ever really wanted to. My wife worked in quality assurance at NMRC for a while, so she told me all about all kind of quality assurance things. And all that is you are, as it says here, you're monitoring and evaluating service quality through the ongoing use of standards and mechanisms that evaluate services to ensure that the standards are met. Okay, in most facilities, like I say, you have watchdogs, surveyors, accrediting bodies that come in either on state, federal level, or sometimes they're hired firms that people bring in to see how your facility is doing, to make sure that you're doing things properly, whether it's proper administration of medications, they're checking nursing, whether it is the temperatures of the food, if that is correct or not. That's on dietary. Whether recreation therapy is providing actual goals and objectives and, following the procedures of active treatment. Whether or not your clients are in a safe environment at all times. Do they have, are things as clean as they should be? That's the sort of things that they are looking for when they're coming in to make sure that things are going the way. There's standards that are put in place by, either by your facility, by like the code of ethics, by, we know what a therapeutic recreation specialist is supposed to be putting out as far as work. Your facility, your state has regulations and things also that they are coming in to check. So we have to make sure before those people show up, your quality assurance people that work at most facilities are going to be checking this full time. They're going to be kind of your bad guys at work that are kind of walking around and peeping around the corner to make sure that people are doing what. They're kind of like the snitches at work. But what they're doing is they're helping you in the long term because they're preparing you for when the big dogs come, not to shut your place down by saying, hey, we probably need to be doing a better job with this. You know, they warn you along the way. They do evaluation in 3 areas that are listed here: structure, process, and outcome. What they're looking at is there are expectations in our levels of care. There's expectations of all those things that I just stated, whether it's water temperature, is it too hot and it can burn clients who don't have the mental capacity to know not to turn on the hot water all the way hot and burn themselves. You know, are we controlling things that could hurt our people? Are we providing things that can help our people? So we have thresholds that are there, and they're looking to see whether or not we're meeting or exceeding or below where we need to be on all of those things. That's what quality assurance is all about. There's indicators all along the way that are checked when you're talking about recreation therapy for each component of API. You want to make sure that we're doing assessment the right way, that we have accurate data to start with. Is our assessment process feasible? Is it timely? Is it something that we do in our, is it consistent? Is it actually telling us the things that we need to know? Planning, are we actually, what is our percentage of seeing positive results from the plans that we put together? Implementation, are we giving active treatment? Are we giving everyone the same amount of attention? Things like that. Evaluation, what is our evaluation standard? How do we evaluate whether or not what we're doing is effective? So it shows how we have to look at each one of these things and find a consistent way to look at them to be able to make sure that what we're providing is truly a quality experience for our people. So when you're looking at quality improvement, you have to look at these questions. What are we trying to accomplish? You know, are we being successful with that? In order to track quality improvement, we have to know, how are we going to know that there's a change in improvement? What are we tracking? What is the data? Data is important always. What is the data we're going to base the fact of whether or not we are seeing improvement or not on? And then what change can we make that's going to result in the improvement? That's the whole, that broke it down into 3 questions. It's pretty simple when you look at it that way, but there's a lot of moving parts. Evidence-based practices is something that comes into play. And, you know, I was talking a few minutes ago about how you don't just make a plan, just, you know, all right, let's try this. Let's try to do it just out of the blue. You don't just grab a butterfly out of the air and look at it and say, yeah, that's a good plan. Evidence-based practice, it has this big long definition, and I'll read it. The integration of the best research with clinical expertise and client values and preferences. The therapist applies the best scientific evidence to each consumer's unique situation to make clinical decisions. So for your clients, if you have a client with spina bifida. You need to do a little bit of research in a clinical, as far as a clinical setting, to see what has been done for people with spina bifida in similar settings as yours and shown effective results with that population. From that, you can base your plan for what you want to do with them. If you have someone with cerebral palsy, same thing. You're going to do a little bit of research. You're going to go and look for scientific evidence with including outcomes that were positive, that were of things that were being done with that population. Base your decisions on what you want to do can be based in large part on that. Now, do you have to do exactly what someone else has done in the past that has shown clinical improvements? You don't, but it sure as heck gives you a good start of an idea that you can tweak and make it your own. You could even do exactly what they did for starters, and then kind of formulate a plan to make it fit your population or your individuals better. But you're basing your decisions on how you're going to work with your clients on things that are actual scientific evidence. It's, you know, in recreation therapy, in physical therapy, in teaching, in construction work, I don't care what it is. If you want to be successful in what you're doing, you need to be a lifelong learner. And you can't just say, this is how we always done, this is how it's always been done. If you fall into that rut, you are not going to be enthusiastic. Your clients are not going to be excited about the things that you're doing because they're doing the same things over and over. You will get in a rut. You will get burned out. You have to be consistent. And I'm not talking about pouring 3 hours a night into boring recreation therapy journals. I'm talking about doing some research during the dead time at work where you have 15 minutes. Like, okay, let me Google some ideas for activities for clients with cystic fibrosis. You know, you're killing time anyway. You're having a snack. Look up some ideas and see if there's anything new that you can try, because it's going to be fun for you to try it. And it will be fun for them to do something different that they haven't done before. And you're basing it on something just that we're seeing here. That's an evidence-based practice. You've seen that it worked for someone else. So there's a systematic approach that's used to identify this documentable information that demonstrates therapeutic recreation intervention effectiveness. This is some wordy stuff. Y'all can come back and look at these slides. They are pretty wordy slides, and they have a lot of big words. And I'm from Coffeyville, and we're not used to big words like this. So I had to read it a bunch of times first, you know, before I came to class to make sure I didn't stumble right there. Basically, I like the bottom sentence better because it describes what we're talking about here. Does A program produce B outcomes with C consumers? Are you getting what you're offering? Is it producing the outcomes you want for the people that you're working with? That's the bottom line of what we're looking at. So improvement through evidence-based practice. Y'all remember what EBP and CQI are in case they're on there. CQI is what? Let's see. Let's go back 2 slides. 3, 4. What's CQI? Continuous quality improvement. That's something that you may see and not recognize off, because that's a little acronym that's used fairly common in some situations. QA is quality assurance, quality improvement, and not so much. EBP, they actually use that sometimes, evidence-based practice. CQI is one that you actually need to remember though, for sure, because it's used in different settings. So if you're looking for improvement through this evidence-based practice, you want to have ways of quantifying your data to show that you're seeing results, positive results or negative results. You need to have outcome measures that quantify the data, describe performance resulting from the specific interventions with specific clients. That's why I was saying, you look up, if you're working with someone with spina bifida, you try to find evidence-based processes, evidence of things that have worked before. So now, in order to define whether or not it was effective, you have to have a way to measure whether your interventions are working. So that's what this is talking about. You need to have outcome measures that say, yes, we're seeing improvements by trying this particular modification. Your outcomes evaluate whether results are consistent with the indicators found in the evidence-based practices. So when you did this activity, you tried this plan based on something that you saw on a group of 50 individuals that are similar to the clients you're working with in Scandinavia. They saw great results. When you did the same thing, did you see great results? That's what that portion is talking about. Are your results consistent with what you based your activity on, is bottom line. Assessing the quality of care documents outcomes through application of accountability processes that measure ongoing improvements in consumer safety and care. You need to make sure that you have measures that you can document. Again, we talked about how important documentation is. If you don't document it, it didn't happen. You need to show that you are trying to consistently tweak what you're doing. That Deming cycle we talked about, where you make a plan, that never stops. You don't reach the end of that. You just kind of continuously go in a circle if you're trying to constantly improve what you are offering. So remember that like you don't reach the end of that cycle really. You just kind of keep going. You try something, if it works, good, all right, let's try something else. You just kind of keep rolling with that cycle that we talked about. You need to have a way to measure the improvements that you're making or your lack of improvements without having a way in place to see, you know, whether it is, you know, successful distances walked by a client. I mean, just something needs to be put in place that you're addressing by a specific activity that you can say, yes, this works. No, this does not work. In our facility, this plan didn't work for us. And then you can try to figure out why, when it worked for another group, it's not working for you. Is it your practitioners at that point? Is it your equipment that you're working with? What's the issue? And then maybe you can address that. What's making you not get the results you were looking for to further, you know, try to improve your quality. That's what you're looking at. So again, evidence-based practices like we've been talking about, you apply the best scientific evidence to each consumer's unique situation to make clinical decisions. We always talked all the way through this whole process of therapeutic recreation. And one of the first things we talk about in 262 is IPP. And the first word of IPP is individualized. So everything we do needs to be individualized. Now, we do group activities. We do some activities as a group that is, you know, is more beneficial to some in the group than others. But we also need to make sure that we're addressing things that each client needs, even though we're doing some group activities and some individual activities. Evidence-based practices, again, integration of the best research with clinical expertise, along with client values and preferences. Just because you find something that has been shown to be effective with a specific group, a specific ailment, specific thing that we are working on, you still need to involve your client, your patient, in the process and let them buy into it as well. We've talked before about how in recreation therapy you need to be a motivator. Some people don't want to participate in your activities. You need to be like, come on, let's do this. Try it one time. I promise you'll come back next time. But come on here. You know, not only do we have to do that, sometimes you have to motivate your clients to try something new. You know, hey, look, I've been reading about something. I think this is really cool. What do you think about trying this? That's another form of motivation to me, and that's helping to get them to buy in. So you're integrating the best research you've done with your own clinical expertise, along with the values of your client and their preferences. So you want to give them the best program based on the best evidence is known to have the most desirable, intended, and meaningful outcomes. This is becoming very common sense at this point. Evidence-based practices, you are finding evidence, it shows efficiency, you try to incorporate it into your plan based on the evidence that you have seen, that you have read, that you have watched videos of, whatever it may be, that you have watched in person, that you've gone to a conference and learned about. So then at that point you say, this is something worth implementing at our facility. Indicators are based on standards of practice derived from literature, experts, and use of effectiveness evidence, such as research results. Those are all things that you can use for evidence to base a new practice on in your facility, in your work. Okay, we made it through that. Any questions, any thoughts about that chapter? It's all about the quality of services that we provide to our clients. And that's something that needs to be ever changing, something that we don't stop addressing and we don't stop looking at as a practitioner. We want to make sure that we're always trying to do better to give them the best care that we can. That's kind of the key on that. Good on that one? Okay. Now, y'all don't leave and let me forget to give you your tests at the end on the way out. We're going to stop there. We're going to watch a few of your videos and go from there. Let's see. Let's share the screen again. All right, Janetta was the first one I see here. I learned something about Janetta. Like, one thing I learned is not to mess with her after watching this. Here we go.
So for this assignment, we were supposed to create a video explaining a device that we created for an adaptation to a therapeutic recreation activity that can be used in practice. I chose to do an adaptation to an activity because I didn't know what type of device to create. The activity that I chose to do was boxing. I used to box when I was younger in Chicago, and so that makes it where most of the techniques that I use are pretty familiar to me, especially with the bag work and sparring and everything. So I did do a little research, and I found out that boxing helps with quite a few things like enhancing the cardiovascular health, improving the strength in your whole body. It improves hand-eye coordination and reflex time. It decreases stress and improves the body composition. And most people like to say that for that it like you do weight, but for the most part with boxing, it's just the way that you do certain techniques. They burn a lot of calories, and you can build a lot of muscle by doing them repeatedly for a long time. some of the adaptations that I was gonna make to boxing as a whole for the recreational therapy setting would be the type of gloves that we use, the type of bag that we use, and the intensity of the workouts. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is the type of gloves. There are quite a few gloves. There's an 8 ounce, a 10 ounce, 12, 16, 18, and a 20. Based on what you're doing. So like for hitting the bag, it's quite typical that you would use maybe an 8 to 12 ounce. For sparring, it'll probably be a 14 to 18 ounce, and then or when you're actually fighting like an opponent, you'll usually use like a 16 ounce glove. That's just standard. But for this setting, there is a glove known as a safety glove, and basically it is about 12 ounces, so it has pretty good amount of just the rubber padding. And then it also has a gel padding like right here at the fist, and then right here under, like where the palm of your hand will. And it's just so that we can prevent injuries. It really helps stabilize the wrists and hands, so that when you go to hit the bag, you don't break anything. So for the hitting bags, because that's what we're going to be doing, it'll be easier to use an angle bag and an aqua bag. An aqua bag is it's kind of like a speed bag filled with water. And what that does is it reduces the likelihood of injuries, and it also, when you hit the bag, it kind of feels like you're hitting an actual person rather than just hitting a bag full of sand. So it
sounds like more fun.
You can hit with a lot more power, and it won't reflect back on you. And then with the angle bag, it's kind of bigger at the top, and then it kind of like, so it looks like this. And what that's for is the top.
So Janetta, on the aqua bag that you're talking about, would that actually slow down? Like, you know how I think of something that has water in it, it kind of changes the center of gravity and movement. Would it slow the bag down also on moving?
Yeah, so it's like the regular bag when it's up like that, it kind of bounces back pretty fast.
Yeah. That's, yeah, it's that would be another good side effect of it for a lot of our, for me. I'd be, you know, I watched this video of this old guy the other day. He was like 90 something years old, and he was just, you know, you got to have the technique. But for somebody that's learning or someone who has motor conditions, that's another benefit that I was thinking about with the water, that it would slow down the motion of it as well. And you may talk about that. I can't remember.
It's the larger part. You usually use those for like most of the headshots, so like straight punches, hooks, and uppercuts. And then the bottom is used just for body shots. So it's just straight punches and hooks, not so much just uppercuts. The last thing would be with the aqua bag, the wear and tear process, it's slowed down because it's filled with water, so it's not, when you hit sand, it kind of tends to clump up and make hard spots in the bag. With water, it won't do that. And the last thing would be the intensity of the workout. Since most of the people that are in the setting, they're usually there because they feel some type of pain or they have some sort of disability. The time that you put in workout and the type of workout that you do will vary on each individual. So for the most part, when you start boxing, we usually do shadow boxing, which is you're not hitting any bags, you're not really wearing any gloves, you're just going through the movements and making sure you get the technique down. And once you pass that, then you get to go into the bags, and based on the bags that we have, you'll be able to, well, the bags and the gloves that we have, you'll be able to hit the bags with any type of force, and it won't really hurt them. It'll just improve the hand-eye coordination and the strength that they get throughout the entire body.
By the way, that was very good. What did you guys think about boxing? Is that anything you've ever really thought about? I think it's really cool. I think that you can hit on so many different things with it. I was, you know, you think about someone even with anger issues, you know, in some of the settings. Give them something productive they can beat on instead of another patient or windows or throwing chairs. I mean, you know what I mean? Like it's a outlet to get rid of some of this frustration. I love how she talked about the different adaptations that are available to make it where some of our population can do this that otherwise wouldn't be able to. You know, different weight gloves, more protection in the gloves, things like that. I can easily see how she was talking about shadow boxing, where you could stand up as the leader or have someone come in if this is not your forte. You know, obviously you could bring in someone who knows boxing to stand in front of your group and lead a session of shadow boxing, you know, where you're all doing, all right, jab, 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 you know, hook. You're doing all the stuff and have someone leading a group, and you don't even have to have a bag. You don't have to have gloves. You're still getting people actively involved. You are getting them where they're following what you're doing. You know, we talked about flow before in class, where you want to get people immersed in what you're doing. If you have a group of, you know, 10 people, like if I had y'all in front of me and you're standing up and I was like, all right, follow what I'm doing, let's go. And you know, and we're jab, 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 left jab, left, kick over the chair. You go through all this stuff, but before long, all you're doing is looking at me. You're watching what I'm doing where you can keep up. You're kind of giggling at each other, but you know what? You're not thinking about the problems that you have at home. You're not worried about what you're going to eat for your next meal. You're not thinking about the things that may be holding you back. You are immersed in what you're doing, and you're in that flow state that we want to get people in. I think that was an excellent activity to get people in that situation. So good job, Janetta. I know that was not something that you probably relish doing. Hey, was that more than y'all have heard her talk ever? So thank you for stepping out of your comfort zone and doing that for us, because you did a really good job. All right, let's share and watch someone else. Who else are we going to pick on? Maybe this is one. Oh. I had more open. I know I did. Oh, here we go. Back to Zoom. Share screen. Here. Share. All right. Lonnie is our next victim. Hey, I'm gonna pretty much get all of y'all now.
Hi, I'm Ronnie Melvin, and the product that I have decided to design is called the Socrates. The Socrates is an object used for individuals to put their socks on by themselves. So the Socrates is going to have two mechanical arms connected to a base machine that puts your sock on for yourself. So there will be motion sensors inside of the shoebox size machine that once you place your foot through the sock, the mechanical arms will pull it through. So this will demonstration. This will be the size of the machine, and then we're going to different sizes depending on size of your foot. And then it'll come with socks that are already rolled up like this, and then you'll basically just, they'll be rolled up all the way to the top, stretches it out, and then you put your foot through the motion sensor, and then it'll go through. So, with the motion sensor, after that, it'll go through the face, make sure it's on comfortably. The reason why I decided to make sock assist is because I recently tore my ACL and MCL in one of the first tasks that I wasn't able to do was put on my socks individually, and I was a little bit frustrated. So I figured coming up with this, I may help others in the future. Independence is a huge thing whenever you're injured or disabled. So this will item the target population for the sock assist There's 4 different ones. The first one is disability. So someone with an upper arm amputee, upper extremity amputee may have difficulty putting on their socks. So this product will be beneficial for them. The second target population is someone who is injured, like myself. So I can have the box here and then push my foot through with the sensor. The third,
Or someone, she said amputee, upper amputee, also someone with, you know, where they have just severe injury, say a car accident. They still have them, but they're unable to use them. I know exactly why you thought about this idea, because I've been there, done that, had the same thing, and you are exactly right. You cannot put on socks when you come out of there. So I know why you had that idea.
population or group is the elderly. My grandmother has struggles with flexibility and balance, so putting on her socks might be a limitation for her, so that's why the elderly are a target population. And the fourth and final target population is individuals who are obese. If they're obese, this could be a good opportunity for them to be able to have some flexibility. So just to wrap it up, offices is the daily tool used to improve short or long-term dependency with getting Christmas.
All right, find out how you can get it.
And included with offices will come a lifetime warranty, just considering that machines do break and stuff, but we find that quality in our product is something that's really important to us. So if, you know, the machine breaks down, we'll just get it.
That's me trying to make it to 30 minutes. 'Cause I was like,
Yeah, hey, I like it.
oh, God.
They might cancel before that starts.
No, we probably need a little bit of this. Let's take a little in. All right. Look who's next. Here we go. Good job, Lonnie.
Thank you.
I know we all love watching ourselves doing our videos, right? Hey, nobody really likes it, so everybody's equal here. Let's just jump in.
Advice, I chose to make an adaptive eating utensils for a patient who might have arthritis and they get a lot of pain in their hands, especially their fingertips, and it makes it almost impossible for them to eat if they have severe arthritis. And I found this on Pinterest, and they had used like an adaptive glue, adhesive glue that for like a huge putty, but I couldn't find it. So we're using Play-Doh for our adaptive device today. And they instructed me, I already made 4, but obviously they don't have regular utensils. I just could get plastic utensils, but it would even be more important for them to have some regular utensils because the plastic is definitely easier to grab than a normal one, which they would probably have in their home more often, and it would be kind of a struggle and probably more painful, which is where these adaptive devices come into their hand. So the website told me to get it in a like golf ball size before I put it on. It's a little bit bigger than a golf ball, but it'll work. And stick it on. And originally the website said at this point when I get it situated to have the patient grip it with their hand so we can kind of get it molded to their fingertips and where they are comfortable eating because they're the ones that are going to be using it at the end of the day. So here's this one. And I said sometimes it'll be a little bit thicker and you just kind of even it out. You kind of just work with them to get it more comfortable.
Okay, I interrupt almost every one of these, but this brings something to my mind. You know, we talk about recreation therapy, and for me, when I was in the field, my number one thing is how can I improve the life of the person that I'm working with? It is not always like you look at this and you say, this is not a game, you know, this helps them. This can be also used with you know, paddles for ping pong, you know, whatever it may be, something that would allow, this is something that can be generalized to other things that we would do as far as games as well. But what we do as recreation therapists is we do work as a team with everybody else to improve deficits, problems that our clients may have. And I thought this was great because it's a good representation of how we can help them. I mean, we do have picnics with our clients. We do take them on trips and take them to eat. This sort of thing can come in handy. And this is something that you could do for an activity that they could literally have to keep. You know, you think of not necessarily using Play-Doh, think of the actual like putty that is going to dry and stick. They can make their own accessible fork, knife, spoon that they can take with them, and or keep up at rec for when you have activities that include food. You know, that they all have their own labeled box and that they made their own thing. People love to do things that they have something to show for it at the end of the day, that they can take home. You know, art. My kids, they love to do things where they do some kind of art because they can bring it back and stick it on the fridge or on their wall, something like that. So people like to take things, have something that they can bring home from an activity. All right. I interrupt all of y'all. I'm sorry.
Add all the text away wherever you need to. So this will be for the spoon. You kind of see how the fingertips are molded. But I'll do one more with the fork, and then I will demonstrate how to use with an apple for a snack. I know it'll be pretty easy for them to do it with other foods. So I thought this might be a little bit more difficult to kind of see how it would work. But we'll go full size again, put it on. Then more importantly, if you like something runs out of the putty, you kind of run out, you make sure it's kind of thicker at this end where their fingertips are. So say I'm gripping it. Let's say I'm gripping it. Okay, this one's ready. I'm going to use this one I had originally made before. So I kind of gripped it a little bit, and now we're ready. Let's see how to do. Okay. This is easier. It feels a little bit easier even with my good hands. Yeah. So you can kind of see how the fingertips kind of grip. And obviously with adhesive putty, it'll probably stay a lot better. I always suggest, honestly, with Play-Doh, using a whole other thing. But yeah, that's my adaptive device.
What do you think about that one? Good idea? It's something that's used a lot. They make, thicker, larger handle utensils. I think that this is even better because they get to mold it to where their hands fit. You know, rather than just making a fat handled fork, spoon where they're just grabbing like a broomstick. You know, they actually have something that's going to fit their hand. Let's do one more. You're already out in the rain today, so why not? I guess it's back to here. Okay, I'm struggling with the what screen here. There we go. Cheyenne, you were right here in front of me. That's just pure luck for you. All right, let's share this. Last one for today.
Hey guys, today my adaptive device is a wrist splint slash positioner used by league bowlers and professional bowlers. So here lately I have been working at the bowling alley here in Oxford, and on late nights I've noticed that some of the older guys who typically have wrist problems that are having trouble positioning the ball down the lane to hit the right hands, they wear this wrist splint slash positioner. And it's to help when their wrist collapsing or throwing the bowling ball so they are able to position the ball correctly. And this is what it looks like. It is a hard plastic where this is the adjustable positioner for this side of your hand. This can also be taken off depending on which one you get. And it is, when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's such a great device to have, especially as a league and professional bowler having those wrist issues. But it can be used for so many other things. So with this, you don't have to use it for bowling. You can use it for when somebody has arthritis and carpal tunnel, and they're not typically wanting to work on their carpal tunnel right now. It's something they want to eventually get to. So if it's just simply bothering them that really bad that day, but they want to still work with their fingers and their arthritis, they can put it on while they play board games or dominoes or while they're knitting during their classes. Now, we also have someone that is lifting weights with their arms, like just a small dumbbell weight, nothing big, but they're still having those issues with their wrist collapsing or just hyperextending, then they can wear one of these and it'll help them keep their wrist straight while they are exercising. Also, if you have someone that's in a gardening class and they are having trouble just moving the shovel around and they're just having huge wrist issues, they can easily slip it on and they can just garden into their little garden. Nothing big, not like a huge garden, but like little tomato plants and a small pot. Also, if you have someone that still works and they're working on a computer all the time and they're typing, like my aunt who has carpal tunnel disease, something she could use while she's at work if something's hurt, like her wrist or bothering her that day, but she's still having to get through the day, she can easily slip one of these on while she's typing and finishing her work up. It'll just, the limit for this
Bless
thing is limitless. Like it can be used for so many things, and I hope y'all enjoy this, and y'all have a great day.
Let's watch
Hey
it
guys,
again.
Today, my adaptive device is a
That was actually, you were like, what? Okay, very good job. What I liked about that is that she thought outside the box, which is what I asked for. Obviously, she's at the bowling alley. She sees people using that for what it's designed for. But she takes and generalizes this and says, okay, how could this be something we use in the recreation therapy field with our activities? She named, 3 or 4 different things that same brace that would be relatively easy to get could help to do things such as lifting weights, such as gardening, things like that. So I like the way you thought outside the box. You seemed comfortable doing that. So good job on letting yourself go on that video. I like that. Who has escaped so far? No, we just did yours.
I thought we meant like who's.
No, who is 1, 2, 3? Okay. I think that's it for who we. Yours is going to take up most of the class on Thursday, so just kidding. But hers
10 minutes.
is a little lengthy. She had a lot to talk about, but that's not a problem.
Just pick one thing.
What we're going to do, I'm going to make this decision right now. Thursday is going to be our last class in here. I will come in and talk about chapter 16 for a while. whatever I do not finish, I will send out like a YouTube link to all of you for the rest of it, and then y'all won't have to come back here for another class. Does that suit you guys, or do you want to finish up here in case? You might need a neck brace after shaking your head so vigorously right then. Yeah, yeah, that was funny. Okay, so Thursday will be our last day. Try to be here. We're going to watch the remainder of these videos. We're going to talk some about chapter 16. I'm about to give you all your tests, and y'all finish the semester strong. Y'all have done well in here on some difficult tests and some fun activities, and I hope that y'all have had a good time this semester. So let me